We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a third grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, what I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, I've got a chance. Number one, the reason where the countries are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single time. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is that not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America. Systemic racism that has plagued our nation for far, far too long. I said that over the course of the past year that the blinders have been taken off the nation, the American people. But what many Americans didn't see or had simply refused to see couldn't be ignored any longer. Those 8 minutes and 46 seconds that took George Floyd's life opened the eyes of millions of Americans and millions of people around all over the world. It was the knee on the neck of justice, and it wouldn't be forgotten. It's not white Americans' fault, but just a fact.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white presence from Europe with an economic war. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farm. Not only that, but many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. If you believe in this number as I do and would like to join me in the fight for reparations, please email me at friendsofabostv@gmail.com. That's friendsofabostv@gmail.com.
Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening on the Central. Good evening in the Mountain. Good evening on the East Coast. You know exactly who it is, family. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the reparationist perspective, bringing you those A-Dots hot topics and making the case for reparations, family. Yes, making the case for weaponizing our vote, and socializing our suffering. What's up, Brian? I see you, Morgan, in the clubhouse. And today, yes, day 10 of the Chauvin trial. Woo-wee. It's getting kind of hectic. It's getting kind of hectic, y'all. Oh, we got some great things. That Jerry Blackwell, I think that's the man's name. Oh my God, the way he closed out today. No more witnesses the way he closed out today, family. Oh, it gives me life. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Follow in. Welcome one and all to the live. This is my Ida B. Wells series 2.0, anti-black racism. And I'm going hard in the paint for Mr. Floyd. For as long as they going on TV, that's how I'll be here every day, reporting to you the updates, sharing with you the way I see it, of course, giving you my commentary in between all of it. Okay. Shout out to Robert Sine, my brother. That is his music. And that undergirds me and all the voices speaking up over here. Okay, so shout out to my brother Robert Sine. He is fire. What's up, ADO's children? Thank you for rolling with your sister as always. I love you too, black and strong. Family, it was rich today. It was just rich. It was epic. It was epic. We learned today that there is clearly a difference between cause and contributing factors. But let me not get ahead of myself. Let's jump to the text. I got an hour with y'all. It might go a little over. Y'all know me. I'll do my best. I was born to talk. So this is a challenge. But I'm up to the occasion. I'm going to try to get y'all out of here in an hour. Okay? So let's get into it. So today, testimony continued, with two medical examiners discussing the cause of George Floyd's death. Hennepin County Medical Examiner Dr. Andrew Baker, oh my God, was last to testify and said the interaction with police was just more than Mr. Floyd could take. Woo, child, it was rich. I'm going to try to pull it up so y'all can hear it specifically at that benchmark. So let's get into it. Let's go to the bottom because that's how my notes come in. Little live updates. They come in bottom, from the top of the morning is at the bottom of the darn thing. So give me a second. Just give me a second. Okay. So here we go. Oh, wait. That was 14 hours ago. No, that's not current. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to the bottom. We might have to read a couple of little things that, might be a little review. I don't understand how they did this. They're saying it's 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. That would be, I think, 5:30 Mountain, 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. Let me just read it. Okay. The Derek Chauvin trial is opening wounds for police violence victims. Even though it has been nearly 4 years since a jury acquitted Tulsa, Oklahoma police officer Betty Shelby in the killing of Terrence Crutcher, a 40-year-old father of 4, his twin remembers the trial like it was yesterday. What was mainly heart-wrenching was to see her, the person who killed my brother. She showed no remorse, Tiffany Crutcher recalled. Today, George Floyd's family is enduring this re-traumatization during former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin's trial. Chauvin has been charged with second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter after kneeling on Mr. Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes last year. 9 minutes, let's just round it up. It was 9:29, 9.5 minutes. And let me tell you why this is first-degree murder. I share with y'all that his knee was on his back, on his neck, and he had him in some type of maneuver that was gripping pain into one of his hands, okay? This was intentional. And after he had no more, After they announced they couldn't find a pulse, that Mickey Ficky sat on that neck for 3 more minutes. This is first-degree murder all day. I don't know how that gets in there, but that's my prayer, that somehow miraculously the jury will say, this is first-degree murder. We want to up the ante on the charges and convict him of that. That would be like ideal, but I don't think that's the way it's going to happen. Today, George Floyd's family, mental health professionals have in recent years highlighted the emotional and psychological toll racist violence can have on Black people. Me speaking, this is why I do these updates. I don't show y'all nothing graphic over here. I just simply give you the updates to keep you apprised of the events and share the way I see it, because I tend to share with y'all what's heavy on me. That's how the series works. If it matters to me, I presume that it matters to y'all. That's how I determine, that's how God birthed my series through me. If it matters to me, I presume it matters to you all, okay? So shout out to all of you. I can't see you, so I can't welcome you just yet. I can only see Clubhouse. So let me move on. I don't give you no violence over here. I don't, because it's traumatizing people. I implore upon you to look away. It's very sadistic the way they continue to run this video of George Floyd's execution into the ground. But, prosecutor is trying to bring the point home that Chauvin murdered him, okay? So anyway, from videos of police brutality to watching criminal trials with bated breath, the stress of such experiences is well documented. But for the families of victims of police violence, emotional stressors are heightened, said Mesa Akbar, Chief Diversity Officer of the American Psychological Association and the author of Urban Trauma, A Legacy of Racism. While the world watches the attempt to serve legal justice for another person killed by police, Akbar notes that for the family involved, justice in court doesn't always amount to healing. And as you guys may or may not know, only one family member at a time can be present in the courtroom due to COVID restrictions. Ooh-wee. Okay, prosecutors call forensic pathologists to the stand. Okay. Dr. Lindsay Thomas was the first witness to take the stand today, ahead of other expected medical experts, including the county medical examiner. That's Mr. Baker. Fire. In his opening statement, attorney Jerry Blackwell said Thomas helped train Dr. Andrew Baker, the Hennepin County medical examiner, who ruled on George Floyd's cause of death. Blackwell added that Thomas will testify that physical signs are not always present when someone dies from asphyxia or lack of oxygen. Stick a pin in it, family. Stick a pin in it, because Nelson is trying to make Dr. Baker prove that it was asphyxia, although Baker didn't find any trauma to the neck. It's getting kind of hectic, okay? All they need is one to hang this thing. We need all the prayer angels on this here. Your inner Christ need to talk to every juror's inner Christ to deliver 12. We need 12. We need a unanimous decision to convict this Mickey Ficky. So the God in you needs to talk to the God in them. That's what I'm telling you to do. That's what I'm doing. Anywho, back to the text. In his opening statement, attorney Jerry Blackwell said Thomas helped. Oh, let me jump. The prosecutor, wait. I'm sorry, guys, I jumped. In his opening statement, attorney Jerry Blackwell said Thomas helped train Dr. Andrew Baker, the Hennepin County medical examiner who ruled on George Floyd's cause of death. Blackwell added that Thomas will testify that physical signs are not always present when someone dies from asphyxia or lack of oxygen. The prosecutor, let me put my bookmark there. The prosecutor also said Thomas will agree in part with Baker's findings, but she will disagree with other conclusions, including his findings about the role that drugs may have played in Floyd's death. Now, I only saw Baker's testimony towards the end. I was busy working. Baker ruled George Floyd's cause of death was cardiopulmonary arrest, complicating law enforcement, subdual, restraint, and neck compression. Under other significant conditions, it said Floyd suffered from hypertensive heart disease and listed fentanyl intoxication and recent methamphetamine use. Once again, family, and I'm going to be stressing this throughout this article, there is a difference between cause of death and contributing factors. Just remember, as I read, when we get to Baker, I'll unpack that. Okay. A Minnesota forensic pathologist agreed today, this morning, that law enforcement's activities in restraining George Floyd led to the man's death. Woo! It's inconclusive. Chauvin murdered this man. When asked how she interpreted the medical examiner's cause of death, Dr. Lindsay Thomas said it meant the activities of officers resulted in Mr. Floyd's death. This just makes me happy. Specifically, those activities were the subdual, the restraint, and the neck compression, she said. Thomas added she agrees with that conclusion. Woo-wee. The Hennepin County medical examiner has ruled Floyd's cause of death was cardiopulmonary arrest, complicating law enforcement, subdual, restraint, and neck compression. Even though you didn't see visible signs, we'll get into it. Earlier in testimony, Thomas said she believed that the primary mechanism of death is asphyxia or low oxygen. The point is that it's due to law enforcement, subdual, restraint, and compression, she said. Woo-wee! Fire! The roof, okay? He also testified that this was not a sudden death, a conclusion she reached based on watching a plethora of surveillance, bystander, and body camera videos of Floyd's final moments. Thomas says she agreed with earlier testimony that it was law enforcement officers' actions that led to his death, adding that there was not evidence from his autopsy or toxicology reports that he died of a heart attack or drugs. Quote, what I observed from all of these videos is that this was not a sudden death, Thomas said, contrasting it to something like cardiac arrest induced by shoveling snow, in which someone comes in and collapses, clutches their chest, and falls over. There was nothing sudden about his death, she continued. It was not the type of death that has been reported in fentanyl overdoses, for example, where somebody becomes very sleepy and then gradually, calmly stops breathing. We've heard this from prior testimony. I think it was Dr. Chauvin. He explained the difference between intoxication and OD. When you overdose, you go to sleep and don't wake up. That was not an OD, as defense is trying to pin on Mr. George Floyd, trying to make him responsible for his own execution. Good grief. Okay, moving on. He ruled out a drug overdose as his cause of death. Thomas said, based on the extensive video she has seen in the death of Floyd and what she knew about fentanyl deaths, this was totally different than what is seen in Mr. Floyd. She added in regards to the level of methamphetamine found in his system, which she described as a low level, looking for what I know about Mr. Floyd's death, because it's so well documented, that does not fit with a methamphetamine death, okay? Thomas agreed with prosecutors that she ruled out drug overdose as the cause of Floyd's death. The defense has argued Floyd's death was caused by a drug overdose and health complications rather than Chauvin's action. Oh, woo, I guess he got to try something. Okay. She explained to the jurors what she sees in autopsy photos of George Floyd that are being shown to the jury, but not publicly. Thomas says she helped train Dr. Andrew Baker, the Hennepin County medical examiner who performed an autopsy on Floyd. She said she is a friend of his. Mary Moriarty, the former chief public defender of Hennepin County, where Chauvin's trial is being held, provides context as to what the jurors are likely being shown. Since the public, this is Mary, since the public may not see them, I can tell you the medical examiner's office does a great job of draping the deceased and using close-up photos of various injuries. Photos are supposed to be limited only to those that show something specific. Someone in seat reserved for a family member of Derek Chauvin for the first time since trial began. Oh, so Chauvin got somebody coming out there. I didn't see this part. Hi, Nina. Welcome. Welcome, love. If you want to catch me live, y'all know how Reparations Perspective on YouTube. So finally, somebody showed up for Chauvin. For the first time since the trial began, there is someone in the seat reserved for a family member of Derek Chauvin. According to a reporter in the courtroom who described the person as a woman of Asian descent. You know, the one that Biden is giving all the protections to, and $80.5 million to AAPI. Instead of giving us the reparations we are owed in the trillions over multi-generations, instead of having the KKK and the neo-Nazis and the skinheads deemed domestic terrorists in the way we who are activists and advocating on behalf of ADOX are deemed Black identity extremists. The one who has yet to make an executive order of the anti-lynch bill that we've been waiting on in our 400-plus year Holocaust. Anywho, back to the text. Seats are reserved in the back for just one Floyd family member and just one Chauvin family member because of the coronavirus pandemic. A member of George Floyd's family has been in the courtroom every day. This week, the seat for a member of Chauvin's family member was removed because it had not been used. A court official said at the time that it would be returned if need be. So the Asian is coming to help Chauvin. I don't know with what, but anywho, back to the text. Medical examiner in Floyd's death testifies. This was fire. The medical examiner who conducted the autopsy on George Floyd and ruled on his cause of death took the stand. Dr. Andrew Baker, medical examiner for Minnesota's Hennepin County, was called by the prosecution this afternoon. Baker ruled George Floyd's cause of death was cardiopulmonary arrest complicating law enforcement, subdual, restraint, and neck compression. The manner of death was ruled a homicide. Now, while we're on that, let me there's a difference in the definitions of a legal homicide and one ruled by the medical examiner. Okay, he didn't call it murder. I think that's the legal definition. We'll look that up later, time permitting. Otherwise, I'll stick a pin in it and bring that back to you guys later at a later time. Okay. Under other significant conditions, it said Floyd suffered from hypertensive heart disease and listed fentanyl intoxication and recent methamphetamine use. Okay. The defense has argued that his death, of course, was drug overdose and his underlying health conditions such as heart disease, not by Chauvin's restraint. Baker has something different to say. Okay. Now, Dr. Baker said that fentanyl and heart disease did not directly cause his death. Okay, so there's a difference, family. The cause of death versus contributing factors. Nelson is trying to make contributing factors the cause of death. That Jedi mind trick, okay? But Jerry Blackwell, he shut it down at 4:30 this afternoon. Listen. Anywho, back to the text. This is Baker speaking. Mr. Floyd's use of fentanyl did not cause the subdual or neck restraint. His heart disease did not cause the subdual or the neck restraint. He ruled that his cause of death was cardiopulmonary arrest, complicating law enforcement, subdual, restraint, and neck compression. The manner of death was ruled a homicide. Rich. He broke down his ruling of the cause of death, saying cardiopulmonary arrest refer to the heart and lung stopping and clarifying the term complicating meant in the setting of. Baker listed under other significant conditions that Floyd suffered from hypertensive heart disease and listed fentanyl intoxication and recent methamphetamine use. These were conditions, not cause. Okay? He said that other factors that are believed to have played a role in the death, but didn't directly cause the death, get relegated to the other significant conditions section of a death certificate. He said, given the condition of Floyd's heart disease and condition on the day of his encounter with police, in my opinion, the law enforcement subdual, restraint, and the neck compression was just more than Mr. Floyd could take by virtue of those heart conditions. Unlike previous medical professionals who have testified, Baker did not directly attribute Floyd's cause of death to lack of oxygen or asphyxia. Okay. Let's see here. So, a second full week of witness testimony ended the day with the medical examiner who determined Mr. Floyd's cause of death and other medical experts testifying. Dr. Andrew Baker, the medical examiner from Minnesota's Hennepin County, said today that fentanyl and heart disease did not directly cause Floyd's death. Mr. Floyd's use of fentanyl did not cause the subdual or neck restraint. His heart disease did not cause the subdual or the neck restraint. The trial will resume on Monday around 9:30 a.m. Okay, it was fire, family. It was fire, and that's the bottom line. Just know that there's a difference between cause and causation. So let's look up legal homicide versus homicide, medical examiner. Welcome to the live, guys. What is the difference between, what is the difference between the medical examiner's definition? What is this thing doing? I didn't want that. Hold on, guys. It did something crazy. I wasn't on there. Quora. Okay, stop it. Lord have mercy. They want me. Let me see if I can find something else, because it's tripping on that site. Well, let me see if I can capture the way they define this in Quora, because they're doing something stupid, making me go through hoops. Just a second, y'all. Okay, guys. What? Have mercy. What is the difference between the medical examiner's definition of homicide and the legal definition of homicide? Homicide means the same thing, whether it's a statement from the medical examiner or in charging papers drafted by a prosecutor. The death of a human being caused by the actions or omissions of another human being. As far as criminal matters are concerned, not all homicides are murders, but all murders are by definition homicide. Crimes related to homicide might include murder, manslaughter, negligent homicide, reckless homicide, vehicular homicide, or some others. To twist it even further, there is also such a thing as justifiable homicide, such as the death of a person caused by a police officer as authorized by law, or in the use of lethal force by a civilian in a situation of self-defense, depending on the jurisdiction. Homicide is an overarching term that includes all human deaths caused by another human. Some of those deaths may be subject to criminal prosecution, others are not. Finally, okay, so that's the difference there. Let me come over and check on you guys, see how y'all doing. What's up, Trey? Welcome, one and all. Brian, let's see here. Hey, cousin. That's my cousin, John Kenneth Dixon, MT Airy 007. Welcome, one and all. Okay, great. So, Monday, it appears that that it's going to conclude with the state. I think the state's going to rest, but not before. The state will not rest. They've got another medical examiner coming on the stand. And they also get an opportunity to bring in 2 of the weakest of the 8 complaints that mirror what Chauvin ultimately procured in the blood choke, the kill choke with Mr. Floyd. There's 8 out of 18 complaints mirror what he did to Mr. George Floyd. And so Monday, they get an opportunity to present the weakest 2 of said events, if they choose, before the jury. Okay, so that's how that's going to work. So let me jump, because I want you guys to know that Biden is suggesting more police funding. Okay, you need to understand this. You need to understand it. I've already shared with you guys, based on the lack of wealth and how we've been neutralized economically, these race soldiers will be in our communities. So let's get into it. He still wants to increase funding for police departments by $300 million to reinvigorate community policing. Now, I've already told you guys these race soldiers. I've told you guys about the February 2016 report from the FBI over a 10-year investigation since 2006 said that the race soldiers have infiltrated all of the police forces throughout the entire country. So in an era of George Floyd and defund the police, your president, I didn't vote for him, wants to give $300 million more to reinvigorate community policing. I've already shared with you guys that they don't need more training. They clearly knew to take the sexually repressed, having a bad day, glacier donkey down in Georgia after killing 8 people, 6 of whom were Asian, which is why Biden has given the AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islanders lobbyist group, he's given them $80.5 million for the 6 they lost. We've been under a 400+ year Holocaust, but they get $80.5 million for the 6 that their race soldier, civilian, glacier donkey, white inferior, murdered down in Georgia. They clearly knew how to take him alive. They clearly knew how to take the I can't even say the 100-year-old looking. I can't even say he look 100. I got folks that's 100, and they don't look as bad as that 21-year-old did, who shot up the 10 people in Colorado. They knew how to take Dylan Root alive. They knew how to take Kyle Rittenhour alive. So they don't need $300 million more to be trained. You see, if they've infiltrated the police force all throughout the country, they know exactly what they're doing when they execute us by state sanction, by government sanction. But your president, Jim Crow segregationist Joe, wants to give them $300 million more. Let's read. He's pledging an additional $300 million in funding for police departments across the country. His campaign has tried to thread the needle amid nationwide protests, saying the former VP supports the urgent need for reform, but believes more funding, not less, is needed to enact it. I've long been a firm believer in the power of community policing, getting cops out of their cruisers and building relationships with the people and the communities they are there to serve and protect. Bryden wrote in a USA Today op-ed. The FBI told you the race soldiers are infiltrated the police force all throughout the country. But you think they're supposed to get out their cruisers and what? Have a beer with the very people they want to extinct? That's why I'm proposing an additional $300 million to reinvigorate community policing in our country. Every single police department should have the money they need to institute real reforms like adopting a national use of force standard, buying body cameras, and recruiting more diverse police officers. And another article on this foolery. Let me find it. Biden suggests more police funding, no jail for drug offenders. Oh, while ours continue to sit in jail while the state turns a profit on weed. Yeah. Now, because white folks are by and large addicted to opioids, now they don't get no jail time. Our crack addicted from the CIA flying drugs and weapons into our communities instead of jobs that pay an American wage. You see, they get locked up, never to see the light of day again. But now the white folks are having a problem. They get rehab and no jail time. President Joe Biden outlined changes he hopes to make criminal justice and policing in the U.S. during a town hall Tuesday night, highlighting issues that his administration may tackle after COVID-19 relief. Asked how U.S. law enforcement can protect citizens in high-crime neighborhoods while training officers to police compassionately, even though they're the KKK, the skinheads, and the neo-Nazis, because they deserve a job. To not allow them to have a job would mean to violate their First Amendment rights, according to the FBI investigation. That's why they're being hired. So you want to make the KKK, the neo-Nazi, and the skinhead compassionate against the very people they want to extinct. Good luck with that. Biden, this is Strom Thurmond's boy, y'all. This is the author of the 94 crime bill. What do you expect? Okay. Ask how Biden answered. Okay. Ask how United States law enforcement can protect citizens in high crime while training officers to police compassionately. Biden answered by number one, not defunding the police. You know how you fix this? Bring jobs paying an American wage into our communities. Let us own our own communities by owning business in our communities. Let us own homes in our communities. Pay that reparations in the trillions over multi-generations. That's how you fix the need for these race soldiers to be in our communities, executing us with impunity. You wouldn't need police if our neighborhoods were like white neighborhoods and Asian neighborhoods and Hispanic and Asian Indian neighborhoods. But when you set up our communities for a preschool to prison pipeline to justify the race soldiers that you hire because it's a violation of their First Amendment rights to not get a job on the force, and you in government are invested in the private prisons. You got shares of stock over there. So you must appease the shareholders, right? We got 1.5 million black men in prison. So you've got to appease the shareholders. Akin to how Wells Fargo Bank got rid of ADOX and replaced us with immigrants to rob the customers for the shareholders' bottom line. and then fired 5,500 and then gave John Stump, the CFO at the time, what was it? $147 million golden parachute. It was in the millions. Some Democrats pushed for reviews of local police budgets after the death of George Floyd under the knee of Chauvin last summer and diversion of funding to social and mental health services. Biden told the televised town hall in Milwaukee that he would put more money into local policing. Not jobs, not education, not home ownership, not business ownership. More money into the race soldiers. Quote, we have to put more money for this to work so we have legitimate community policing and we are in a situation where we can change the legislation, he added. On the campaign trail, he's promised to invest $300 million in a program that gives grants to hire more diverse officers and trains them to develop less adversarial relationships with communities. I told y'all, these are race soldiers that clearly know how to take their own alive. He should know that he's the author of the 94 crime bill. He was the first to call us predators. And don't come over here talking about he's reformed. You don't reform this kind of hate. You don't reform Strom Thurmond's boy. You don't reform the author of the 94 crime bill that has yet to decimate private prisons and qualified immunity with the stroke of an executive order. Executive orders, none to include us socially or in terms of economic justice, none. 75 days in office or somewhere around thereabouts. And we elect this, not me. 87% of our electorate elects this man instead of weaponizing the vote, like me and the reparationist movement have been telling y'all all along. Well, I'm not missing words this time around, family. We need to vote red top of the ticket in a blue Congress to protect the over 53% of ADOCs who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism until we can replace the lanes with full-chested reparationists. I'm not recommending we do nothing unakin to Dr. Charles Morris, pastor of Abyssinian Church, who said, after we delivered Teddy Roosevelt, and he dishonorably discharged 167 Buffalo soldiers who were wrongfully accused of murdering a second white man after being quarantined in their barracks for being wrongfully accused of murdering the first, that you shot us when our guns were empty. And for that, we're going to return the same with a red top and a blue top, a ticket. This is when we were Republicans, and a red Congress to protect the Black South. None of Star Party business is working because they can clearly still hold primaries in elections. Okay? So miss me with it. We need to shut it down. We need to shut this all the way down. Okay? So let me come over. We got about 15 minutes for me to look at your comments and bid y'all, pray y'all out. I've been telling y'all about Fix HR 40. I've been saying it's .com, it's .org. Okay, family? I made the correction in the chat. So please, if you give a damn at all about your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, get over there and get to work and put them to work. We've got scripts. Let me tell you what it is. Okay, so we need 6 essential edits for HR 40 reparations bill. Okay, we need, since I'm on this, Lord, let me see if I can magnify. I can't find my glasses. My Walmart readers. Hold on. Uh-oh. Why is it? Okay, hold on. Okay, I blew it up. So, let me read this to y'all. Currently, HR 40 is the only federal reparations legislation for descendants of American chattel slavery. Now, I want to accredit the reparationist movement because this thing was collecting dust for over 30 years until we came for them. because the revolution is being social mediaized. Now we need all hands on deck, or you're facing a cashless reparations package. So, HR 40 is broken. How do we fix it? When passed, HR 40 will create a special commission to study what reparations could look like. While we're grateful to the elders and legislators who have crafted and pushed this bill for the past 31 years, we are concerned about some key flaws in the legislation. Ultimately, we agree with the revisions suggested by the economist professor and reparations scholar, Dr. William Darity. Our campaign is especially concerned with the overall focus, eligibility, and the form of restitution that reparations could exist in. Help us get slavery reparations legislation right. Support the Fix HR 40 campaign. So, reparations advocate and Duke University professor Dr. William Sandy Darity gives us 6 essential edits for HR 40. First, experts only. Commissioners should be selected exclusively by Congress. They should be experts in American history, constitutional law, economics, including stratification economics, political science, and sociology, and they should have expertise on the history of slavery and the Jim Crow regime. Employment discrimination, wealth inequality, health disparities, unequal education opportunities, criminal justice and mass incarceration, media, political participation and exclusion, and housing inequities. Number 2, no pay for commissioners or their organizations. Right now, as it stands, they want $12 million and they want to be paid into perpetuity to study our repair. There should be a paid professional staff. While the commissioners' reasonable expenses should be met, unlike the present version of the bill, neither they nor any organization to which they belong should receive a salary, honorarium, or the equivalent for performing this vital national service. Sheila Jackson Lee is ignoring these edits. That's why we need your help. Eligibility criteria. The commission should be directed to set as eligible recipients Black American descendants of United States slavery. Eligible recipients would need to show that they have at least one ancestor who was enslaved in the United States, a lineage standard, and for at least 12 years prior to the enactment of a reparations plan or a study commission, whichever comes first, they self-identified as Black, Negro, or African American, an identity standard. So no, BIPOC, you can't sit up here and have used your whiteness for the come up and now want to come up in here and identify as one of us for the reparations. That would be an absolutely not. You've gotten your reparations. You've been on the white side of benefits. 1776 to present window claim. The relevant window for the Black American claim for reparation dates from 1776 to the present, not 1619 as the bill currently reads. Okay, well, since the claim for redress must be made on the U.S. government, the beginning date for the claim should be associated with the founding of the Republic, not the landing of enslaved persons in Jamestown, Virginia. See, that's where I disagree. Somebody needs to be on the hook for 1619 to 1776. I can't get everything, I suppose. He's a Duke professor. I'm at 104 trillion for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. And I believe from 1619 to 1776 was the seed that grew the trillions they now share today, as compared to the less than 700 billion ADOC shares. Number 5, effective racial wealth gap redress solution. The commission should be charged with developing a proposal for redress that will eliminate the gulf in Black and white wealth in the United States. While Black Americans constitute 13% of the nation's population, they possess less than 3% of the nation's wealth. A reparations plan should be designed to bring the Black share of wealth at least into alignment with the Black share of the population. Number 6, 18-month deadline. The commission should be directed to complete its report, inclusive of a detailed prescription for legislation to enact the reparations program for Black Americans within 18 months of its impaneling. So that means y'all got to not get paid for this and get this wrapped up. Let's start getting checks in the mail and money directly deposited into the bank. You know, like you did with the pandemic. So we've got everything you need over there. The scripts, take action, sign the petition, volunteer to help, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, fixhr40.org. Okay, I got about 10 minutes. Let me come back to y'all. Brian says the medical examiner's testimony and cross-exam was very tense today. The high blood pressure and drug angle is what defense is hanging on to create reasonable doubt. It's not. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Brian. That's why we've got to stay in prayer mode right now. Your inner Christ got to talk to that. Your inner Christ, Buddha, Islam, whatever you identify as. All roads lead to God. That's my belief. I am a New Thought Christian, a metaphysician, but I believe we're all made in that image likeness of God before we were flesh. And you can literally, in your meditation and prayers, talk to the God in each of those individuals. That's the only way we've ever gotten things accomplished as a people in this country with 3 Ks. Brian says, I was glad he, the ME, the medical examiner, differentiated between cause of death and contributing factors. Me too, Brian, it was fire. And for that to be the note that Jerry Blackwell ended on, it was epic. After all of what defense did and all the hoops he jumped through to try to pin it on Mr. Floyd's underlying health conditions, that ME stood his ground in those closing words. I'll see if I can find it to close us out with that segment, okay? Because it was rich. A defense like what's being proposed suggests that in order for officers to be found guilty, their captives must have been in 100% tip-top immaculate shape when being killed in police custody. Brian, you are absolutely right. That's why I flashed at the top of the show. I said it was something that was posted over in Racebook. I said Black people are the only group in America that get put on trial for being murdered. Oh my God. And guess what, sweetheart? Even if he was in impeccable health, 9 minutes and 29 seconds to the neck would have taken his life. If his health was optimal, they said all it took was 10 seconds to expire a person. So it ain't going to work. In the name of Black Jesus, it ain't going to work. Let's see here. Brian says, on Biden police funds proposal, more money equal more problems. That is for ADOPS. You best to know it. They're not in neighborhoods where Asians' median national income is $87,000 and white folks' median national income is $65,000 and ADOPS' median national income is $41,000. They're not over there. They're not over there. They're in the neighborhoods where we have been neutralized economically. Brian says, as if police departments aren't militarized enough, get ready for more Chauvin incidents, not to mention implementing undercover Asian police officers in New York City. Get ready for more Peter Liangs, who executed father of 2, Mr. Girling, in the stairwell of his tenement housing. Dustin Scott, welcome to the live. May peace be with George Floyd's family in this time. Absolutely, family. May peace continue to keep him lifted. That's my intention with this segment, to keep Mr. Floyd lifted and to get all of the same loving energy to surround him in this trial. This trial, yeah, to give him justice that he is long overdue. Let me bring up Jerry Blackwell. This is on the heels of defense, y'all. This is what we close with today to give the jurors something to meditate on. It was fire. So give me a second to bring it up because I want to cue it exactly where that was. If you will bear with me, we will listen to it together and then I'll pray us out. Okay? Just a second, family. I got to go to my history to find it. Oh, God. Gonna switch accounts first. Lord. Okay, family. Let me get it exactly. Oh, that's not it. Hold on. You could just bear with me. We'll get right to it. I just want to take us right there. I don't want to hear the rest.
Earlier today, Dr. Lindsay,
and it was around 2-hour mark.
From the non-sequences, you did say consistent with the size of your about the significance.
Okay, family. I think I found it.
Dr. Baker, I'm going to be brief. So if we could look up, Brett, the section on cause of death. So, Dr. Baker, take into account the entire exchange you had with Mr. Nelson on Mr. Floyd's medical conditions, on whatever testimony you gave, wherever you gave it. I want to bring our attention back to what's reflected in Exhibit 193. And taking all of that into account, what today remains your opinion as to the cause of death for Mr. Floyd?
So my opinion remains unchanged. It's what I put on the certificate last June. That's cardiopulmonary arrest, complicating law enforcement subdual restraint, and neck compression. That was my top line then. It would stay my top line now.
And so if we look at the other contributing conditions, those other contributing conditions are not conditions that you consider direct causes. Is that true?
They are not direct causes of Mr. Floyd's death. That's true. They're contributing causes.
And in terms of manner of death, you found then, and do you stand by today, that the manner of death for Mr. Floyd was, as you would call it, homicide?
Yes, I would still classify it as a homicide today.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. Further question.
Anything further? Councilor Cyber.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever ADOX and its allies are, God truly is, because, family, you are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until Monday, I may do a pop-up show Sunday. Trying to get this thing going Monday through Fridays and take the weekend to decompress. You make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening and weekend. Until we meet again, know that I love you black. I love you strong. Peace. I'm in Clubhouse if y'all want to jump over.